Namaskar and a good evening and a very warm welcome to this session of In Conversation with Hingori Sutras. Prana is not just breath, it is our energy, our vital life force, the dynamic aspect of the consciousness. We tend to confuse the functions of the physical body due to the lack of understanding of the nature and function of the subtle body. The subtle body is composed of a finer matter than space in the physical world and cannot be perceived by the physical senses. It belongs to another plane of existence, which we normally access only in dream states or after death. The subtle body allows the life force or prana to enter into the physical body. Without it, the body cannot even move. The subtle body is always active within the physical body, as it is the source of its vitality. This gives birth to 100 questions. What is prana? Where can I find it? How do I recognize it? Why do I need it? Hence, understanding prana becomes really important. And to help us clear our misconceptions and explain the true meaning of prana, we have with us Dr. Ganesh Rao. After a distinguished service spanning over 2 decades, Dr. Rao resigned as the finance executive from Tata Motors Limited to pursue his passion. He went on to becoming one of the most inspiring names in the field of yoga, having conducted more than 21,000 sessions in yoga, including specialist workshops, presentations of papers in national, international conferences, counseling and therapy sessions all over the world. With multiple degrees and qualifications, Dr. Rao authored and co-edited several books besides publishing innumerable articles in newspapers and journals. What is interesting to know is that Dr. Rao has carved a niche for himself in the field of sports as well, with a rare combination of extreme physical fitness and exquisite skills. He has excelled as a professional soccer player for more than 17 years at the national level, representing reputed teams such as Tata Sports Limited, Air India, Orkay, and many others. He has represented Maharashtra state football team in national championships for 6 years and was a part of the national camp for selection of Indian team for Asian Games 1982. And Dr. Rao continues to be a regular high altitude trekker in the Himalayas and Sayadri Mountains since the past 25 years. Wow, what a terrific profile that is, Dr. Rao. A very warm welcome to you. आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है.
Thank you, Anjali ji. Before I start talking on prana as such, I express my thanks and gratitude to Hingori Sutras for inviting me to talk on seemingly very esoteric, but practically very significant. The understanding of this topic itself proceeds on 2 parallel lines. One is on the intellectual side, clarification, and on the experiential side. Without experience, one cannot understand it fully. And to add to our discomfiture, the scriptures use a language full of symbolisms, allegories, similes, and metaphors. So unless and until your experience also moves along with your understanding, difficult to grasp such subjects like prana. I will make an attempt in the next 40-45 minutes to lay in right perspective this concept of prana, its relationship with breath, mind, consciousness, therapy, purification, and such other topics. Coming to the starting point, the meaning of prana. We all know, even our normal day-to-day language, use the word prana every now and then. It is talked synonymously as breath or sometimes as life itself. Etymologically, the term prana means a force in constant motion, a vibration to and fro. Each one of us has this prana in us. Because of that, we are alive. And this prana in us has two aspects. One is the cosmic or the universal aspect, which we refer to as Kundalini Shakti. In most of the people, most of the time, this is dormant or sleeping. And then we have the individual aspect of prana, the prana which is responsible for each and every function that we perform at various levels, physical, physiological, mental, whatever be it. Everything we are able to do just because of the presence of prana, the individual aspect of prana. And it is this individual aspect of prana which, depending upon the function that it performs, is given different names. I will come to that classification of this prana based upon functions slightly later in my exposition. But to explain further, this prana is not only life, but even existence. If I have to elaborate on this point, this prana is the essence of not only animate things, but also inanimate things. Even a stone has prana. If the prana is not there, the atoms and the elements which go to the making of the stone will disintegrate and there will be nothing there. The force which holds together those atoms, elements as stone is the prana force. And in living beings, this is the same force which allows growth, movement, development, progress, all sorts of changes, which is life per se. So both for existence as well as for life, prana is necessary. Prana is the basis of existence and life in the whole of the universe. This prana is there everywhere. When I say everywhere, I mean even empty spaces have prana. That is how we talk about getting positive vibrations in some place. Some places called haunted places, negative vibrations. So it is there everywhere, omnipresent. It is inherent in everything. It is latent in everybody. That is the expansive nature of prana. Everything in the universe is made up of this prana. In the human being, if I go by the personality theory, just for bringing up my point, I'm bringing out this personality theory mentioned in the Taittiriya Aranyaka Upanishads of the Panchkosha theory. Then in this Panchakosha, we talk about human personality as made up of 5 layers. It is the Annamaya Kosha, the physical body, the Pranamaya Kosha, the energy body, the Manomaya Kosha, the mental body, Vijnanamaya Kosha, higher intellect or wisdom body, and Anandamaya Kosha, bliss body. Within all these koshas, deep inside is our real self. Whether we call it as soul, as Purusha or Brahman or whatever it is, does not matter. But the point I want to make it is the first 3 layers. The Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, and Manomaya Kosha. The physical body, the pranic layer, pranic sharira, and the mind. These 3 layers bring about a very important fact, and that is the pranic body can be mapped onto the physical body 1-to-1. That is why even if somebody plucks my hair, I say, ouch, because there is prana there, I feel the sensation. If my toe hits against a stone, I say, ouch, there is, because even in that toe, there is prana present there. So the pranic sharira, the pranic body, is exactly mapping onto the physical body. And now the interesting fact, in addition to extending up to the physical body, it extends itself a little bit outside the physical body also. That extension outside the physical body of the pranic sharira is called aura. This aura is the pranic vibrations. Some gifted individuals, yogis, gurus are able to see the aura of individuals. This aura, the extension, the color combination, the quality depends upon the state of the body and the state of the mind. It is in between the body and the mind. I'll come to this in between because this is very significant from therapy point of view, from understanding our personality point of view. But at this point of time, it's wise to say that aura is an emanation of prana outside the physical body. And when an individual dies, the aura totally disappears because we say it's the pranic layer. The prana is gone out of the body. This prana is the fundamental energy, the foundational energy, the only energy. All other systems of energy, all other names of energy are only manifestations of this pranic energy, pranic shakti. Yeah. I'm talking about energies in various dimensions of life. We talk about atomic energy, molecular energy, chemical energy, biological energy. We talk about physical energy, mental energy, spiritual energy. We talk about potential energy, kinetic energy. We talk about wind energy. We talk about solar energy. We talk about hydraulic energy. All of them are only manifestations of this basic foundation, fundamental energy, which is prana. So there are not different types of energy. There is only one energy, that is prana, and every other energy is only a form, a type, a manifestation of this basic prana. In our day-to-day parlance, the one misconception that we have is of identifying prana with breath. This happens because normally when a person stops breathing, he dies. Yeah, so we associate prana or life with breath. But there's a big difference between the two. The prana is absorbed by us into our body through various sources. The food that we eat gives us prana. The water that we drink gives us prana. The air that we breathe gives us prana. Sunlight gives us prana. And now, very interestingly, the people around us give or take prana. Most of the time they take prana. That is why sometimes we say, this person sucks me of my energy. That person is not a vampire. How is he able to suck your energy? And this is our experience all the time. That if this is the significance of being with a guru or having a satsang, because the energy of the guru rubs onto you. The more you are in the company of sad people, depressed people, negative people, pessimistic people, you will automatically become negative, sad, depressed. You will not know how you are becoming. This is the reason why, without exaggeration, 90-95% of psychiatrists take psychiatric treatment because day in and day out they hear sob stories. There is a depletion of energy which is happening. Energy is taken away. So, the energy or prana is absorbed by us through various sources. Out of these sources, breath is the most tangible source. I will like to explain what I mean by tangible source. And that is how we come to the significance of pranayama. We talk about pranayama and identify, unfortunately, pranayama with breathing practices. Yes, they are breathing practices, but they are not only breathing practices. Most of the people, most of the places do only shwasa prashwasa ayam, not pranayama. Pranayama is made up of three words, prana plus a plus yama. And yama means control. So pranayama refers to control of prana by stretching it. What we do is we are using breathing practices to control prana. That is why breathing practices are called pranayama practices. Why do we use breathing practices? Because watch the insight there. If we have to so-called, in quotes, touch the prana in us, we know that prana is responsible for all the activities that I perform. All the activities can be classified into voluntary activities and involuntary activities. And by the very term voluntary, it means my will is involved there, my mind is involved there. So I cannot advantageously try to manipulate or control prana in my voluntary activities because mind is also playing a role there. So I turn my attention towards involuntary activities. But the fact that the activities in my body are involuntary, it means I cannot control them. So I'm in a catch-22 situation. Voluntary activities, I cannot touch prana because the mind is there. Involuntary activities are not in my control. How do I touch prana there? Now we come to the insight. Breathing is one of the involuntary activities, important involuntary activities, which can be made voluntary even by a common person, a normal person. And that is what we do in pranayama practices. Pranayama is making that involuntary activity of breathing into voluntary activity. So I make my inhalation slow and long. I hold the breath for some time, depending upon my capacity. I stretch it when I'm exhaling. So I try to manipulate my breathing with the sole purpose of being able to touch the prana there and use the prana for whatever purpose I want to use. That is why breathing practices are called pranayama practices. Breath is the grossest, or to be more precise, the most tangible aspect of prana there. So breathing is used for pranayama. Coming to the point which I already mentioned, prana or the breath is the bridge between the body and the mind. The pranamaya kosha is in between the annamaya kosha and the manamaya kosha. What is this bridge? In fact, all the five koshas are energized by the pranamaya kosha. That is fine. But location-wise, pranamaya kosha is said as the bridge between the body and the mind. When we say bridge, our normal understanding is for going from the body to the mind, I go through prana. For going from the mind to the body, I go through prana. In our practical day-to-day life, this is of utmost significance, and that is any disturbance in my physical state, physiological state, any ill health, any disorder, any disease gets reflected in my breathing pattern. Not only that, every disturbance in my mind gets reflected as a disturbance in my breathing pattern. It disturbs my breathing. The breath is a measurement whether my body is okay or my mind is okay. This is very, very crucial. You can see this for yourself. When you are angry, your breath becomes fast, rapid, erratic, short. When you are sad or depressed, your exhalation becomes longer. You sigh. When you are surprised, you gasp. When you are afraid, you choke. Every state of mind has a particular breathing pattern associated with it. The breath, breathing or prana is like one stone with which you kill two disorders or diseases, one of the body, one of the mind. That is the critical juncture or critical significance of prana as far as health is concerned. That is why, particularly in today's time when we are afflicted by this corona, and more people are getting mentally afflicted despite whatever position in society they occupy, pranayama is the best antidote for setting this mental state into an equilibrium state, into a happy state. Also, being a student of psychology, we know that 90 to 95% of our physical ailments are psychosomatic. That means the root of the physical ailment rises in the psyche, in the mind. And from there, when it is not controlled, it slowly degenerates to the body and have all the problems. Whether you take diabetes, whether you take hypertension, whether you take acidity, constipation, even back problems, skin problems, asthma, all of them rise in the mind and come to the body. Unfortunately, because we don't realize the significance of this fact of prana being the bridge between the body and the mind, what we do is, when we are afflicted in the mind, we look for mental therapists, psychologists, psychotherapists, psychiatrists, mental doctors. And when it degenerates from the mind to the body, we run to the physical doctors and take medicines there. We forget that the passage from the mind to the body is through the prana or through the breath. If we are able to hold that degeneration of the psychic problem at the level of the breath by doing pranayama practices, the problem does not come to the body. That is why we can, say with 100% assurance that the best antidote to stress is pranayama practices. And particularly in today's environment, where there is so much of fear, so much of gloom, when we look ahead into the future, we don't know, so much of uncertainty there. It is pranayama practices which can hold you steady physically and mentally. So prana is the bridge between the body and the mind. This prana, the individual aspect of prana, for the sake of convenience, I refer to it as Mahaprana. Depending upon the function it performs, it is given a different name. So we classify the functions of the human being into 5, and accordingly we talk about Pancha Pranas, 5 main pranas. The first classification of Mahaprana is prana itself. The human body, the human being requires continuous replenishment of energy. So that prana, which continuously provides energy to me, is called prana itself. This is located between the nostrils and the chest. It is mainly responsible for the respiratory system and also the organs which come under this location in the body there. Once this prana is taken into the body, then it requires to be converted into a form that can be utilized by the body. This function of converting the prana into a form utilized by the body is done by another prana called samana. You see, the term samana comes from sama, balance. It is drawing a balance between the body and the prana there. This is what controls the digestion, activities of digestion, assimilation, and circulation of this nutrition. And the area of functioning of this samana is from the chest to the navel region. This is our Jataragni, the fire in the body there. When samana does its function, 2 things happen. 1, nutrition is generated, a prana that can be utilized by the body, and some impurities are generated. So the impurities have to be expelled from the body. That function of expelling the impurities in the body is done by another prana called apana. The area of functioning of this prana is below the navel, up to the anus. It does the excretory activity, not only the feces and the urine, also the sweat, the carbon dioxide from the body. Even when the mother gives birth to a baby, the delivery or the push that is required for bringing the baby out is done by the apana prana. The prana which is now ready for circulation all throughout the body, that function is done by a prana called vyana. Obviously, the area of functioning of this vyana is all over the body. These are the four pranas which perform vegetative functions in the human body, function of keeping the human body alive. But in addition to being alive, we also live. We also perform higher functions like emotions, feelings, thinking, analyzing, discrimination, language, communication, expression, art. All these functions are done by a prana called Udana. Udana does all the so-called higher functions in the human being. The area of functioning of the Udana is from the neck upwards. Having described in brief, very brief, these five pranas, panch pranas, just for the sake of completion, there are also five upapranas, minor pranas, which yogic texts talk about, which perform minor functions. For example, Naga prana performs the function of belching, regurgitation, hiccups. Then we have Kurma prana, which does the function of blinking of the eyes. We have Trikara, which does sneezing or the feeling of hunger and thirst. We have Devadatta, yawning, drowsiness. And finally, we have Dhananjaya. Very interestingly, this is the prana which is supposed to, linger around the dead body once life is gone away for some time. And this is what explains to some extent what you talk about rigor mortis, the body becoming very, very stiff after some time when the death has taken place. So these are the five small pranas. I want to repeat once again that prana is only one. Depending upon the functions that it performs, we give it five different names. As I mentioned, every part in the body has prana. So obviously, the prana travels in the body, and this passage through which prana travels is called as nadi. Nadi is coming from the word nada, means flow. It is a flow of prana. Yeah. So nadis are the conceptual passages. I'm using the word conceptual because it is not perceptual. You can't perceive it by X-ray or MRI or any other techniques. It is conceptual passage. The prana travels in the body through conceptual passages called nadis. There are thousands and thousands of nadis. Yogic texts differ in the numbers that they ascribe to the number of nadis. Some, texts talk about 72,864 nadis. Some texts talk about 300,000 nadis, 350,000 nadis, and some texts talk about 72 crores of nadis there. The point remains that each and every part in the body, howsoever insignificant part that be, howsoever remote that part be, prana reaches there through the passage of nadi. Out of all these nadis, three nadis are very, very crucial. These three nadis are Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. Most of the yoga practitioners know this, that breathing through the left nostril is breathing through the Ida Nadi. Ida Nadi is associated with the left nostril. Pingala Nadi is associated with the right nostril. And we have the most important Nadi of the three, which is Sushumna Nadi, which is located in the spinal cord from the base of the spine, that is the Mooladhara chakra, going straight up to the Sahasrara chakra or top of the head. Before I go to the most interesting point, Ida Nadi transports Manasik Shakti. I'll come to that slightly later. Pingala Nadi transports Pranic Shakti, and Sushumna Nadi transports Adhyatmic Shakti or spiritual energy. And for us to understand in layman's term, this spiritual energy is what we refer to as awareness or mindfulness, yeah, which is different from consciousness and energy. I am coming to the most important point of discussion. Very, very interesting point, not easily available in the text, and that is the relationship between prana and consciousness. Very, very crucial. Prana and consciousness, energy and consciousness, are two sides of the same coin. Consciousness is the static part, prana is the dynamic part. One is active, one is passive. Before evolution takes place, both prana and consciousness are together, fused together, which is called as Mahabindu, which is called as Shiva and Shakti together. Shakti is the prana, Shiva is the consciousness, pure consciousness. You will understand very nicely now. When the Shakti separates from Shiva, evolution starts happening. In other words, prana is the agent through which consciousness brings about results in the world. This consciousness and prana are given different names in different contexts. We talk about Shiva and Shakti. We talk about Purusha and Prakriti. We talk about Yang and Yin. We talk about Brahman and Maya. We talk about energy and matter. We talk about Ida and Pingala. And not only that, on the psychological sphere, psychological domain, we talk about male and female. That is why you see Ida and Pingala are talked about as female aspect and male aspect of energy. So in different contexts, these two, consciousness and prana, are spoken about by different names. The important point is consciousness evolves or brings about this universe through prana, through the pranic Shakti. Prana is the link between the consciousness and the body. Body is matter. When I'm talking about matter, the body, what I'm talking about is, in Indian philosophy, we talk about the body as Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira. Sthula Sharira is the body of the five elements, my physical body. The Sukshma Sharira is the subtle body. The main components of this Sukshma Sharira is the Buddhi, Ahankar, and Manas, or what in Western psychology we talk about mind. So, consciousness, okay, through the medium of prana, affects the body and the mind. Very beautifully, Prashna Upanishad says that one who knows the origin of this prana, one who knows the place of entrance of this prana into the body, one who knows the rulership or functions of this prana in the body, and one who knows the spiritual or internal aspect of this prana, attains to immortality. This is beautiful because we know, I have spoken about the origin of the prana. The prana is the agent of the consciousness for affecting things in the universe, for evolution of the universe. It is the link between the consciousness and the body and the mind in us. And now, the most interesting part, the prana enters into the human body through the medium of the mind. I'm taking you a little bit into Indian philosophy. When an individual dies, either he is buried or cremated. And in both cases, the physical body made up of the five elements These 5 elements disintegrate and become one with the universal elements. Space, air, fire, water, earth. The bones, the muscle, the fat, they become ash. They become earth. The water in me evaporates, becomes one with the external water vapor. The fire, the temperature in me becomes one with external temperature. The air in me becomes one with the air outside. And the empty spaces in the human body, when the body is disposed of by burial or by cremation, that space becomes one with the external space. Fine. Now the question is, what happens to that Sukshma Sharira and the consciousness? And now we get the understanding very clearly when the Upanishads say that prana enters into the body through the Sukshma Sharira. We know that this mind and consciousness are on an onward journey, life after life, depending upon the samskaras of that composite body of prana, of the Sukshma Sharira and the consciousness. In the Sukshma Sharira is the chitta, the repository of my samskaras. And depending upon that, my next birth, the next fetus of the mother in which I am born. Hatha Yogic texts make references that in the mother's womb, this consciousness and the Sukshma Sharira enter when the mother is 3 to 4 months pregnant. Along with that Sukshma Sharira, the prana also enters. Till that time, the fetus is working on the prana of the mother. When the consciousness, the Sukshma Sharira enter there, it attains to individuality. Now it becomes an independent life. That is why number of cultures, number of places, abortion is not allowed after 3 or 4 months, because after 3-4 months, abortion is homicide, not removal of the fetus. Before that, it is only removal of a part of the mother's body. So, origin is talked about. Now we talk about the point of entrance of that prana into the fetus, or at the time of birth or conception. It enters through the Sukshma Sharira. Not only this, there is another reference, very, very esoteric reference in Sankhya Karika. When Sankhya Karika explains the functions of the buddhi, the manas, and the ahankar, a very innocuous line it states that the common function of all these three, buddhi, ahankar, and manas, the common modification of them is prana. Prana is the life of the antakarna or the mind. So it enters into the body, into the life through the Sukshma Sharira when conception of birth takes place. And then having entered there, it performs through the 5 pranas, all the functions there. Now I'm coming to the most important point, the spiritual dimension. If I have to draw a schemata, then it is consciousness, prana, and then body and mind. This is what I've been talking about. For what we talk about self-realization, whether we talk about moksha, nirvana, kaivalya, or whatever it is, the process is exactly the opposite. The body has to become as still as possible, which is what we do in meditation. The chitta vrittis, nirodha has to happen. All the functions of the mind have to settle down. And now we come to the most important point, the prana to merge with the consciousness. So the way evolution takes place, the same way involution takes place, or what we talk about, the goal of spirituality, self-realization takes place. Prana plays a tremendous role there. Tremendous role. Also, a similar line, a similar sloka or sutra is given in Hatha Yoga text, which says, the Lord of Indriyas, senses, is the manas, the mind. The Lord of the manas is the prana. The Lord of prana is a laya. Laya means dissolution. So the Indriyas have to fold into manas, which is the pratyahara practice in yoga. The manas has to fold in prana, which is the meditation, and the prana becoming one with consciousness. You have reached the state of Mahasamadhi. You have reached. So finally, we are tackling energy there. The body and the mind are gross aspects of that energy. After having done with that body and mind, now you're going to the prana there, and slowly you're stilling it, becoming one with consciousness. You are becoming the universe. You're becoming universal consciousness. This is what we talk about in Kundalini awakening. That cosmic aspect of prana, which is awakened at the Mooladhara chakra, rising up to the Sushumna Nadi, reaches the Sahasrara chakra, which is the abode of Shiva, the pranic Shakti, Kundalini Shakti, and Shiva becoming one. That is self-realization. I'll just take 2 minutes. I'm exceeding my time. I finished 40 minutes. Just 2 minutes. Just to draw attention of the listeners to 2 more points to set the perspective of prana very right. Even Om is referred to as Pranava. And Pranava can be broken down into 2 parts, prana and vapu. Vapu means body, prana means energy. So Om is a body of energy. And Patanjali says, Tasya Vachakaha Pranavaha. Tasya means it's means Ishvara. Ishvara is the pure consciousness. The verbal expression of Ishvara or pure consciousness is Pranava or Om. That is the significance of Om. Om is the energy body. It is the same as consciousness. It is the active part. Consciousness is the passive part. That is why the Upanishads give so much significance to meditation on Om. Not only that, Om is considered as Paranada. When the pranic Shakti separates from the pure consciousness from Shiva, the first manifestation of prana is in the form of sound, nada. That paranada is Om, and that is what Patanjali talks about in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, Tasya Vachakaha Pranavaha, Tajjapa Tadartha Bhavanam. That is the significance of Om. The last point, which I want to draw your attention to, is it is the obstruction in the flow of prana in the body, which brings about diseases in the body and the mind. So all methods of pranic healing are ways and means of restoring the free flow of prana in the body. Pranayama is called as Paramatapa, the highest form of purification. Even in Ayurveda, you will find this reference. Ayurveda says, Kapha is lame, Pitta is lame, all impurities are lame. Lame means they cannot be eliminated or removed by themselves. They are carried away by the wind, the vata or the prana. Prana is the purifying agent in the human body. That is why the more pranayama you do, 2 benefits happen. One, on the energy side, the stock of energy goes up, your health goes up. And on the side of consciousness, your awareness level goes up. Pranayama practices bring about good health on one side, make your mind concentrated, leading towards awareness on the other side, going towards the spiritual goal. So prana is a purifying agent in the body, like the fire in which you temper the metals and purify the metals. It is a purifying agent as also the healing or the therapeutic agent. The significance of prana is tremendous. In the field of therapy, we are yet to embark upon using energy for healing purposes. We are still at the level of body and mind. We have not yet gone. This is what happens in your Guru Shishya Parampara, where the Guru heals by energy, not by medicines. I will stop my presentation at this point. Thank you very much for patiently listening to me. I will now try to answer, if I'm able to, the questions which are there. Anjali, over to you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Rao. Really an interesting talk, and you made prana so easy to understand. Yeah. But here, the one question that is here, which started off with the audience, was understanding that we spoke about during death, what happens to the prana? Can you just put in throw a bit of a light on the death and prana?
Yes. At the time of death, the soul, which is the consciousness, along with Sukshma Sharira, which is infused with prana, leave the body. And so the body of the human being, which was animated a few moments back, becomes like totally like a stone, inanimate, because the principle of life, prana, along with the Sukshma Sharira, which is the mind, and consciousness goes out. That is how we say it's the prana nikal gaya. Yeah, it just goes away, goes out. And now it hovers. Indian philosophy talks about two doctrines. This Sukshma Sharira, mainly comprising of the mind, and the consciousness which is bound. When we say we are under bondage, it is a consciousness which is bound to the Sukshma Sharira. This composite structure of the consciousness, the Sukshma Sharira, hovers in the universe. There are two doctrines there, two ways of looking at it. It hovers in the universe till the time it finds the right womb of a mother to take birth. One doctrine says that. Another doctrine says only when the womb of a mother is ready, death takes place. So death here, birth instantaneously in some other place. These are the two ways in which we read in the scriptures about the consciousness and the Sukshma Sharira moving and taking birth again till the time the samskaras are there and the law of karma is not fulfilled.
Right. So while we talk about this, you spoke about the prana leaves and it waits, for birth or, to enter another womb to the mother. This brings in thought when you did speak about the sun. The sun has the prana, the wind has the prana, the water has the prana. So how are these connected? So this is again energy. So how are these connected outside our body? So how does prana work outside the physical body?
Not only sun, moon, trees, every substance in the universe, animate or inanimate, has prana there. It is the natural function of the sun, okay, to provide heat and light, which is life-giving. Yes, in the scriptures, we draw a symbolism between sun as the giver of prana. That is why probably this question comes up. Yeah, even in our body, we refer to the right nostril as Surya Nadi, because that is the pranic shakti is transported there. So it is only a symbolism. In the empirical life, in the universe, the sun is the symbol of life. In the householder's life, fire is a symbol of life. In the individual body, it is a Jataragni, which is the fire there, which is symbol of life. So it is just a symbolic thing. That sunlight which gives energy is again a manifestation of the original prana, which is working through the sun.
Okay. Right. Dr. Rao, while you were talking, you spoke about the nostrils and the energy that goes in from the right nostril. Now there is this thing that through the left nostril, when you breathe through the left nostril, it sort of brings in some bit of calmness, right? Why does that happen?
Yes. In philosophy, if I have to explain Shiva and Shakti, I will explain it as being and becoming. All the time, we are becoming. This becoming is the change, which is my prakriti. Prakriti is a body and mind. This prakriti is made up of three gunas. The mind and the body are continuously changing. Not only that, each one of us can try in our own lives, sit for 2 minutes without doing anything, see what happens. Even if you're able to keep the body body still, the mind is still saying, no, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. It is the nature of the mind to become. This is the pranic Shakti. The pranic Shakti continuously is becoming. Yeah. Whereas this is transported by the right nostril. The left nostril transports Manasik Shakti, which is consciousness. And that Manasik Shakti, exactly the opposite of Pranic Shakti, where Pranic Shakti is becoming, Manik Shakti is being. So your left nostril breathing tends to make you calm, peaceful, and settle down. If I use the language of modern medicine, your right nostril stimulates the left hemisphere of the brain, which is the sympathetic nervous system more. Your left nostril breathing stimulates the right hemisphere of the brain, which is parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is always cooling and tranquilizing. So left nostril breathing is always cooling and tranquilizing. But from the point of view of yogic insight, it is that becoming and the being which makes this difference. Left nostril is consciousness, it's always being. The whole journey in our spirituality is a journey or progress from becoming to being. It's so difficult to just stop, do nothing, just be. It's very difficult. In fact, in the state of meditation, it is the experience of beingness which is so blissful. When we say Tada Drushtu Sarupe Avasthanam, your Purusha or soul or consciousness is established in its own nature. What's its nature? Its nature is total passivity. Its nature is pure awareness. Nothing happening, no doing. It's just being. That is the left nostril. In fact, very interestingly, a person who is brain dead, okay, in the hospital, okay, in that person consciousness is there, but the right nostril is not operating. One prana goes there, another prana does not go there. That is what we talk about, a person is in coma. So left nostril breathing is always tranquilizing.
So does that mean that taking control over our breath means that we are taking control of involuntary self or the prana? Is one of the questions.
Of course, yes. You asked me a very good question. I didn't have time. See, pranayama practices bring about effects on 4 dimensions. One, on the physical body, your musculature, your bones, your everything will become nice, strong by doing pranayama practices. Second is on the physiological side. All the systems in the body start working well. Health happens. Third is on the mental side, because breathing is directly connected to the mind. The slower you are breathing, the more calm and peaceful your mind. So, and in pranayama, we are slowing down the breathing to the point of stoppage. So the mind becomes calm and peaceful. The dimension is the spiritual dimension. That spiritual dimension happens only when you touch the prana in the body, and that happens only when kumbhak happens, and in kumbhak you affect bandhas. You were talking to me informally earlier about mudras and bandhas. Bandhas are locks which stop the flow of prana in one direction and redirect in another direction. You actually start doing pranayama practices when bandhas are incorporated and you are able to sense. I'm using the word sense with a little bit of reservation. You are able to sense the flow of prana in the body. That is the time actual pranayama happens. Otherwise, we are doing only shwasa prashwasa ayam. We are only doing breathing practices, getting benefit on the physical, physiological, and mental side, and just being contented. We are not controlling the prana. Pranayama practices are meant for controlling the prana. And now the last part. By doing the breathing slowly, slowly, slowly to the point of stoppage, kumbhak, when kumbhak happens, your Ida and Pingala, they get suspended as far as activity is concerned, and only when they get suspended, the third nadi, Sushumna nadi, becomes active. And prana, Kundalini Shakti rises to that. That is the time awareness starts happening. Every rise of the Shakti through the Sushumna is an increase in your level of awareness, is a progress on the path of your spirituality. You asked a very nice question.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Rao. There's another question here. You You explained about diseases being mostly psychosomatic. Could you explain this a little more, please?
Okay. When I say psychosomatic, psyche means the mind, soma means the body. So the diseases start in the mind and then come to the body. This is the psychosomatic definition of the word. What I am saying is, if you look at the present day world, and all of us in the present day world, we are so stressed out. I'll give you a typical example. I go to the office and there are so many demands upon me as an executive in the office that every time a deadline is approaching, okay, there is stress there, whether I'll be able to meet that deadline or not. This stress in the mind, whether it is fear, insecurity, anger, this is recognized as a disturbed emotion by the brain, the hypothalamus. The moment the hypothalamus recognizes this disturbed emotion, it tries to meet that disturbance. And that is what is called as the stress response. It meets that disturbance in the mind, the brain, the emotions there, through the endocrine system and the nervous system. So certain chemicals, certain hormones are discharged to take care of this stress which has come in the mind. Mainly it is the adrenal system. The adrenal is discharged, which is ready to face the crisis there, to face the situation. So we talk about the fight or the flight response. My hypothalamus, other organs in the brain, they prepare my nervous system and endocrine system. Chemicals are discharged, hormones are discharged, so that my body is ready to meet that stress. But unfortunately, that stress lasts for 15-20 minutes and then slowly settles down. So now what happens? When that stress settles down, these hormones, chemicals are excess in the body. My body, where my palpitations start happening in the heart, my breathing becomes fast, the folds of the skin starts perspiring. This is not utilized. It remains there. After 2-3 hours, again the stress starts happening, again this starts coming up. So this stress, which brings about a disturbed emotion, brings about slowly functional changes in my body. That adrenal, which is discharged more, releases glucose from the liver there. So the sugar content in the body goes slightly up. And when it goes up, I'm not utilizing it. I can't do anything to the boss. I can't resign from the office. It remains there. In course of time, this so-called functional changes become permanent there. I am diagnosed as marginal diabetes, marginal hypertension. When even then that is not controlled, these functional changes deteriorate to organic change. My heart expands, my asthma remains permanent, skin problems become chronic, diabetes become chronic, and we are so comfortable with that. So what started as fear in the mind, anger in the mind, insecurity in the mind, anxiety in the mind, it slowly goes into the body. This is beautiful. The way digresses. Yeah. What I was saying was, from the mind to the body, if you are aware, awareness is the key. This is the key of the spiritual person. The only yardstick of the spiritual person is how much aware that person is. The moment you know that, okay, I am going through this anger, fear is there. If you are aware of it, that awareness stops the ball rolling downwards. And in that awareness, if you watch your breathing, you'll find, oh, breathing is disturbed. If you're just watching the breathing slowly comes down. So what was earlier a stress response, this anger, fear, negative emotion does not go there for the stress response. It is halted at the level of breathing there. So if you're able to do pranayama practices every day for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and ensure that your breathing is normally, basically slow, the slower your breathing, the less stress for you, the greater your threshold of bearing nuisances, irritations, or stress situations in life. This is the secret of pranayama practice.
Fabulous. So that answers the other question of how do we avoid or get rid of diseases, or how do we control not falling ill and getting diseases? Slow breathing.
I told that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's another, while we spoke about the medical aspect of it, this question here, what do the scriptures state as the origin of prana and the cessation of prana?
Yeah, I did mention that. The scriptures say that Shiva and Shakti together is what is referred to as Mahabindu. This Mahabindu, which is a fused structure of energy and consciousness before evolution is there. I mean, I'm talking about particularly one philosophy to be more precise. In that consciousness, that combined structure, in that consciousness, there is a semblance of a desire. Okay, that how nice it be if the world is there, universe is there. That semblance of a desire, the moment it arises, that combined entity has what is called as Jnana Shakti, Sankalpa Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. So the moment the desire is there is omniscience there. How it can fructify is there. There is Kriya, power of action there. All the balls are set rolling. That desire immediately manifests into the universe. And that manifestation happens by the Shakti manifesting as the universe. That Shakti manifests, to go slightly deeper, in normally, I'm talking about the philosophy, it manifests in three ways: Nada, Bindu, and Kala. Nada is a first. That is why I give so much importance to Nada in Indian philosophy. And that is why this Nada, the first Nada, is called Paranada, the transcendental sound. From that transcendental sound, we have Pashyanti, where the sound and the word, the meaning of the sound is not yet separated. From that Pashyanti, we come to Madhyama. Slight separation happens, like a thought, where the name and the object for which is the name is slightly separated. From that Madhyama, the Vaikhari, or the audible sound comes. The audible sound is the manifestation of the universe. So the pranic Shakti separating from pure consciousness is the starting of the universe. And that pranic Shakti is a part of that Shiva, the Shiva Shakti, all the time. I'm talking about philosophy.
Right. Dr. Rao, is there a connection in the flow, or the flow connection between an aura and the breath?
Yes, aura is prana, and breath is the manifestation of prana, gross manifestation of prana. So that is a connection. In fact, right, what we have to see is that aura is connected. See, that aura can be used for therapy purposes. Yeah. The mind which is disturbed, like what we just talked about, anger, fear, whatever it is, any disturbed emotion. Okay. The mind which is disturbed disturbs the breathing or the prana. That disturbed prana brings about a disturbance in the aura. So if a person is able to detect the aura, the disturbance in the aura, and set it right at that level, then it does not go to the body.
Right.
That is how it is connected. Yes, it
right.
is 100% is connected. In fact, even in our day-to-day life, we see.
While we talk about.
Yeah. Please tell.
Sorry. Your voice did crack in the middle, I think. Please continue.
Okay. No. What I was saying was this topic of prana.
Yeah.
Are you able to hear me? Hello?
Yes, now yeah.
No, what I was saying was.
Yes, doctor, we could hear.
Okay. My starting point. My starting point which I made, this topic of prana, okay, is totally experiential. Intellectually, we can only get clarification, okay, but experience is very much necessary. What happens is, if we go on intellectually hair splitting, then we are in the total field of pure speculation without experience substantiating that intellectual clarification. And that is where we tend to go here and there. That is where the scriptures here and there we are not able to understand, and we get wrong ideas there. Experience has to be parallelly moving along with the intellectual progress. We use the word prana.
Absolutely.
See, even when I meet some person, I say the vibes of that person are matching with my vibes. What are these vibes? Vibes are short form for vibrations. Even without talking to the person, without knowing anything about the person, I come to the conclusion I like this person. How do I come to? Because there is a sensation, there is an experience of that energy. All of us are in energy field there. Unfortunately, we have developed or concentrated only on developing our body and mind. We have not yet gone beyond the mind to the level of energy.
Right.
That field is the field of spirituality. Once we start more and more being open to feel the energy around, magic is waiting to happen. Miracles are waiting to happen.
That's where a guru plays an important role.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so, Doctor, how exactly in a guru parampara does a guru use the prana energy to heal?
I'm talking from the scripture point of view. Okay. The first point is, in a Guru Shishya Parampara, it is different from modern education, where we have student and teacher, and the relationship is there only as far as the student paying fees and the teacher teaching, nothing else. In a Guru Shishya Parampara, the Guru not only teaches, but is waiting to transform the Shishya. And the transformation can happen only when the Guru understands the Shishya fully. This understanding of the Shishya fully is not confined only to the body and the mind. When I say mind, I'm talking about emotions, feelings, intellect. Not only that, it is also stretching towards the energy of the person. So the Guru, in addition to upgrading the Shishya intellectually, professionally, also upgrades the Shishya spiritually by raising the level of energy. Not only that, there are references made in the scriptures which say that the Guru can utilize his or her own energy in trying to raise the energy level of the Shishya.
Yeah,
sorry,
I think I got disconnected. Can you hear me, Doctor? Yeah. So I just, the last bit of the day is one practical tip that you can give or show our audience as to what they can practice, to be more aware of their pranic energy and the prana.
I will mention two things. One thing is, each one of us has to spend more time with nature. You have to be close in touch with nature. Nature, whether it is mud, whether it is plants, whether it is sunset, whether it is the full moon, even pets, you can talk about nature. We have to spend more time with nature. We have made life so machine-oriented, so sophisticated, intellectual, so analytical, that we have lost our simplicity of being in touch with nature. The more you are in nature, automatically you are with pure naked energy. The first point. The second point, very simple point, is we have to make a practice of removing at least 2 minutes to 5 minutes every day to just sit and do nothing. Just sit and do nothing. Just be in the moment. I'm not talking about doing nothing, because there also it is doing. It is nothing doing. You just sit. Even that will take a long way.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And with that, thank you very much, Dr. Rao, for such an insightful session. And we can see the comments. I think our audience has really benefited from your session today. Thank you so much for obliging to come on our show here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone for patient listening. Take care of yourselves in this situation. Celebrate life.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, dear audience. It was a pleasure having you. And if you still do have a few questions, please do write to us at answers.hingorisutras@gmail.com. We would be happy to answer the questions and pass them on to Dr. Rao as well. So look forward to hearing from you and look forward to connecting with you next Sunday. Good night, sayonara, Khuda Hafiz.
Good night.